I've got a story that mixes jealousy, curiosity, and unexpected attraction. You know that gut feeling, that whisper inside that tells you something isn't quite right with your partner? Well, I felt it loud and clear. I caught my husband with eyes fixated on our new neighbor in a way that definitely didn't sit right with me. At first, I felt that sharp sting of jealousy. But I won't lie, part of me was also intrigued. So, let me introduce myself. I'm Aurora, 29, and so is my husband, Levi. We've been married for 6 years, and despite our age, we've built a pretty stable life. We own a house, drive a decent car, and work steady jobs at a tech company here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, Raleigh might have a reputation as a laid-back, cozy city, but it's actually bustling and full of surprises. And believe me, this story has its fair share of those. It all started at the beginning of this year, right after we moved into a new house in a freshly built neighborhood. Picture this. Nearly identical houses lining the streets, some with gates, some without. Little by little, families were moving in, and since we were one of the first, we decided to put up walls around our house right away for some privacy and safety. Around this time, our next-door neighbor, Ava, moved in with her daughter. With so few people around, we quickly got acquainted and, as neighbors do, even helped her build the wall that separated our yards. Now, here's what you need to know about Ava. She's an impressive woman, around 45, with this striking beauty and undeniable confidence. She's a single mom, a language teacher, Spanish and other languages too, and seems completely devoted to her daughter and her job. I'll admit, I couldn't help but notice her, and occasionally, I found myself admiring how she carried herself. Then things took an interesting turn. One day, I came home to find Levi up in our bedroom, standing at the window, looking out with an intensity that caught me off guard. Our bedroom window faces Ava's kitchen, and with her large, uncurtained window, you can see practically everything that goes on in there. Levi was so deep in thought he didn't even notice I'd come in. That was odd for him. He's usually pretty relaxed. But this time, he seemed different, almost like he was hiding something. When I asked him what he was doing, he jolted a bit, clearly caught off guard, and mumbled something about checking if the wall needed adjustments. He gave me a quick kiss on the forehead and hurried out, avoiding my eyes. Now, that behavior definitely got my attention. So, curious, I went over to the window to see what was so interesting, and there was Ava, at her sink, washing dishes. She wore a gym top that showed off her figure, and she looked completely at ease, lost in her own thoughts. It clicked right then. I understood why Levi was so caught up in that moment. Ava's beauty was undeniably captivating. Watching her, I felt this strange mix of jealousy and, unexpectedly, some attraction of my own. Ever had that feeling when you see someone and they just seem to draw you in without even trying? That was Ava, and it left me wondering how far this curiosity would take us both. I knew Ava was beautiful, but seeing her catch Levi's attention sparked questions in my mind. Was he attracted to her all along? Before we dive deeper into this story of infidelity, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more twists and turns. After staring out that window longer than I'd meant to, I finally left the room, but Ava's image stayed fixed in my mind. I found Levi in the garage, tinkering with the car, and without a word, I went up to him and kissed him, suddenly feeling a rush of desire. I leaned in close and whispered, daring him to do whatever he wanted. He looked at me, a bit taken aback but also amused. This wasn't unusual for us. We've always shared an intense connection, openly communicating our fantasies, big and small. With the spark between us burning hotter, I took things up a notch. I leaned in, whispering provocatively, "Do you want our neighbor, love? If you ask nicely, maybe I'll let you." He paused, eyes wide for a moment, but his reaction told me everything I needed to know. Afterward, we sat quietly together, catching our breath, until he turned to me, still a little in shock, and asked if I was truly serious about my offer. I looked him in the eye, grinning, and said, "Why not?" Seeing Ava had stirred something in me, too. I admitted that I'd even imagined the three of us together, a confession that caught him totally off guard. He chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief, and asked why I hadn't told him sooner. I laughed and replied, "Guess I hid it as well as you hid the fact you'd been watching her through the window." That broke any tension that had lingered. We both laughed, feeling that weight lift. Back inside, we tossed around ideas about how to invite Ava to a more intimate evening. Neither of us had any real experience with this, but the excitement was undeniable. We'd fantasized for years about exploring this side of our relationship, though I'd never acted on my attraction to women. Now, it felt like the moment was within reach. We finally settled on a plan. We'd invite Ava over for a casual dinner, just the three of us. Since I knew her a bit better, it made sense that I'd extend the invitation. With the plan set, I didn't waste time. I told Levi I'd head over to Ava's right away to get things started. He looked at me, almost stunned, probably doubting I'd actually go through with it. I smiled back, slipping on my slippers, and told him to just watch. I walked over to Ava's, clapped my hands, and called her name. She opened the door, dressed impeccably as usual, and greeted me with a warm smile and a hug. I explained we'd made too much food and asked if she'd like to join us for dinner. She hesitated, shrugging it off politely, saying she didn't want to intrude, but I gently insisted. I told her it would be a light-hearted, fun evening, and after a few moments, she agreed. We set the dinner for 8 p.m., and I headed back to our place. I found Levi peeking out from behind the wall, unable to resist his curiosity. He grinned, complimenting me on my boldness, and we shared a mischievous kiss. We spent the next hour tidying up, each passing minute filling the air with anticipation. I noticed Levi glancing at his watch every few minutes, pacing around the room, clearly more anxious than me. To help him relax, I found a way to, let's say, ease his tension, getting him a bit more prepared for the night ahead. The clock ticked closer to 8 o'clock, and we waited, the excitement and tension in the air practically tangible. This was a night that promised to be unforgettable. As I stepped into the shower, the warm water cascading over me, my mind started drifting toward the evening ahead. The thought of Ava's lips, her soft touch, her skin against mine, it stirred something more intense within me than I'd ever expected. This wasn't just idle curiosity anymore. It was a genuine desire to experience what it might feel like to be with another woman. After drying off, I took my time getting ready, putting thought into every detail. I slipped into a new set of red lingerie, delicate but daring, and chose a light white dress that hugged my curves just enough. Paired with a subtle pair of heels, the look was simple yet provocative, exactly what I wanted. Levi looked equally stunning, dressed in light jeans and a black dress shirt with a couple of buttons left open at the collar. He smelled incredible, his natural charm radiating like always. Together, we looked and felt like a couple straight out of a movie, ready for an unforgettable night. Once we had finished setting up the table, placing the baked fish, carefully arranging the plates, glasses, and cutlery, the anticipation in the air grew thicker. Just as we put the finishing touches on the setup, the doorbell rang, and Levi and I exchanged glances, both nervous and thrilled. "There's no turning back now," I said, giving him a playful smile. He chuckled, excitement flashing in his eyes as he nodded, ready for whatever the night had in store. While he poured the wine, I headed to the door, my heart racing. Opening it, I was met by Ava's warm smile, her presence as captivating as ever. She wore a fitted black dress, slightly shorter than mine, which traced the curve of her hips and accentuated her figure beautifully. With her delicate makeup and confident air, she looked stunning, and I felt a twinge of nerves and excitement as I welcomed her in with a warm hug and a gentle kiss on the cheek. "Make yourself at home," I murmured, trying to keep my voice steady, but with a hint of mischief. Ava stepped inside, and as soon as she entered the living room, she was greeted by Levi, who handed her a glass of wine, his face lighting up as he complimented her. "You look absolutely incredible, Ava." There was an undeniable spark between them. Levi then grabbed his own glass, and we settled on the sofa, the conversation flowing easily. The atmosphere was warm and relaxed, yet there was an undercurrent of excitement that none of us could ignore. After a few sips, I teasingly asked Ava how she kept herself in such amazing shape. She smiled and shared that she'd been dedicated to working out for years, sticking to a healthy lifestyle and cutting out sugar entirely. "I haven't touched sugar in years," she laughed, clearly proud of her dedication. Her discipline and confidence were magnetic. I joked that I might have to follow her lead if I ever wanted to look as fabulous as she did. She shook her head, smiling softly, and said, "Aurora, you're already beautiful. You don't need any of that." Her compliment caught me off guard, and I felt myself blush a bit, the flattery sparking a fresh wave of anticipation. As we continued chatting, laughing, and sipping wine, I realized that Ava was fully at ease, enjoying the evening as much as we were. There was something different about her tonight, a freeing energy, as if she was letting down her guard. The night was flowing naturally, our laughter mixing with quiet glances and subtle touches. And as we relaxed together, it felt like anything could happen, like we were all inching toward a night that might reveal parts of ourselves we'd kept hidden. The evening stretched on, rich with laughter, warmth, and something else, a thrill that promised this would be a night none of us would soon forget. As Ava continued her story, revealing pieces of herself with each word, it became clear she was someone who'd weathered so much, yet somehow carried herself with both strength and grace. My husband, without missing a beat, asked if she lived alone with her daughter. That's when she shared something that tugged at my heart. She was a widow. Her husband had passed away 8 years ago, leaving her to raise their daughter by herself. Since then, she had been this lone warrior, tackling life's demands single-handedly, never really pausing to care for herself. In the comfortable, intimate atmosphere we'd created, I couldn't resist asking if she had anyone special in her life, perhaps a boyfriend or companion. She shook her head, and a faint, bittersweet smile crossed her face as she explained that after her husband's death, life had changed drastically. She had to double her efforts to pay the bills, manage the household, and juggle everything on her own. There was simply no time for anything else, she admitted. But now, with her new home, she finally felt a bit of ease creeping back into her life. I could see a hint of hope in her eyes, a hope that maybe things could be different. With each sip of wine, our conversation grew deeper. We laughed and shared stories, creating a connection that went beyond just neighborly friendship. Sensing an opening, Levi playfully teased her, saying he found it hard to believe that a woman as captivating as her would choose to be alone by choice. She laughed, a warm, genuine laugh, and admitted, "Oh, I get hit on all the time, but I prefer to be alone. I need a real connection with someone, or it's just not worth it." I admired her honesty, and she added, with a glint of determination, "Right now, I'm focused on me. Maybe I'll look for that connection later." Then, with a touch of vulnerability, she confessed that while she sometimes missed companionship, she'd gotten used to, well, managing those needs on her own. We shared a laugh at that, and I couldn't help but joke, well, lucky for us, these days, we women have plenty of toys to keep us company. The lighthearted joke kept the mood lively, and I felt barriers melting between us, like we were all embracing an unspoken understanding of each other's desires. Dinner followed, and with each delicious bite, the warmth of the evening grew. Ava complimented my cooking, joking she'd love to join us for meals regularly. Seizing the moment, I playfully replied, "You're welcome anytime, but there might be a special price for entry." Her eyes widened slightly in surprise. Then she looked at Levi with a mischievous smile before laughing, breaking any awkwardness. The night felt vibrant, and laughter came easier with each passing moment. After we'd eaten our fill, we cleared the table and took the evening outside. I turned on soft, amber lights that cast a cozy glow over our backyard, where a large wooden table waited, surrounded by chairs. With the wine flowing, the conversations became more intimate, the warmth of the evening and our candidness drawing us closer. Ava, fully at ease, began asking us about our lives, our story, our dreams. As we shared, Levi, loosened up by the wine, took a chance and asked if she'd ever done anything crazy in her life. Ava's brows furrowed slightly, intrigued but unsure. Levi smirked and clarified, "You know, Ava, those wild things you do when you're first discovering yourself." Her expression changed, and she replied, perfectly at ease, "So you mean, have I been with more than one person at once? Or maybe a couple?" The ease and honesty in her response left me in awe. It was refreshing, her lack of inhibition adding a new layer to the evening. She went on to share that while she'd been curious about such experiences, she'd never had the opportunity. Her late husband had been rather conventional, and she hadn't felt free to explore her own desires back then. The sincerity in her voice made me admire her even more, realizing how much courage it took to be that open with us. Feeling emboldened by her honesty, I joined the conversation and asked if she'd still be open to it, given the chance. Her response caught us both off guard. She looked me right in the eyes and said with a smile, "Absolutely. Nothing's holding me back." A shift in the atmosphere seemed to settle over us. Ava, with an intrigued look, glanced between Levi and me and, after a beat, asked, "Is that why I'm here? To stay with you two tonight?" Her question threw us off balance, leaving Levi and me exchanging looks, neither sure what to say. The air was thick with anticipation, but before we could respond, she leaned back, a confident smile on her face, and looked at Levi. "You know," she began, "I've noticed you watching me from your window." Her revelation stunned us both, and the playful confidence in her voice only added to the intensity of the moment. "I liked it," she continued. "It made me feel beautiful." Her directness left us momentarily speechless as we all sat there, aware that the night had taken a turn we hadn't quite expected. The energy in the backyard was electric, charged with Ava's candid confession. She looked down for a moment, almost shyly, then admitted, "I can hear you sometimes, when you two are together." She glanced up, a bit embarrassed but smiling, and added, "I've always been curious. And you two are a beautiful couple." Her honesty hung in the air, surprising and thrilling. My husband's eyes widened slightly, both in awe and fascination. "I'm sorry if that was too much," Ava added quickly, her words soft, but there was a warmth in her tone that felt real and unfiltered. Breaking the silence, I met her gaze and said, "You're not the only one paying attention." I grinned, letting her know that we'd both noticed her charm, her beauty, and the way she carried herself so effortlessly. With a playful smile, I took a deep breath and finally voiced what had been bubbling beneath the surface. "Ava, we want to ask you something, and we don't want it to change our friendship," I said, pausing just enough to let the words settle. She nodded, her gaze steady, curious. Then, with a mix of excitement and vulnerability, I told her the truth. "Both of us are attracted to you. Would you stay with us tonight?" My words opened a door to something new, and Ava's expression softened, her eyes bright with intrigue. After a thoughtful pause, she smiled, but made her boundaries clear. "I'm in, but I don't want it to complicate anything between us." That was exactly what we were hoping for, a bond built on trust, fun, and mutual respect. My husband, smiling at the moment, suggested we all move inside, to the bedroom, where we could talk more privately. As we stepped into the house, I gently took Ava's hand and kissed her softly, a warm and gentle gesture. She responded, her eyes reflecting both excitement and ease. Levi watched us with a satisfied smile, and with a shared laugh, we walked hand in hand toward the bedroom, ready to let this moment unfold naturally. Inside, we didn't waste time. The three of us came together in a swirl of laughter, whispers, and touches. Ava, relaxed and fully present, kissed us back with a passion that made it clear she'd been longing for this as much as we had. The night flowed with warmth and energy, a sensual dance that united us in ways I hadn't anticipated. There was something beautiful about exploring this closeness as a trio, a connection that felt both intimate and freeing. After hours of laughter, shared glances, and a closeness that went beyond words, we drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms. Waking up together felt natural, as if we'd known each other on this level forever. We took our time that morning, sharing jokes and even showering together, the sense of adventure lingering as the warm water cascaded around us. But soon enough, reality set in, and Ava reminded us that she needed to get back, as her daughter would be home soon. We said our goodbyes, a lingering kiss carrying a quiet promise of more nights like this. I looked into her eyes, a playful suggestion on my lips, and asked if she'd come back later. She laughed, shaking her head but smiling, saying, "Oh, I'm not sure I can keep up with you too, but I'll think about it." The glint in her eyes made it clear she wasn't ruling anything out. From that night on, our lives took on a new sense of adventure. We invited Ava over regularly, exploring this new side of our friendship. Each encounter deepened our connection and built a unique kind of companionship, one that was thrilling yet grounded in mutual trust and excitement. As the year comes to a close, the three of us have planned a getaway to Miami to welcome the new year together, staying at my husband's family beach house. The idea is to embrace every moment, filling the days with sunshine and nights with new memories. If you'd like, I'd love to share all that unfolds on our Miami trip with you. Let me know in the comments if you're excited to hear what adventures await us there. Until next time, here's to many more stories and unforgettable moments.